In a forgotten corner of the city stands a vintage toy factory, and the night shift isn't what it seems. It started with a whisper over the intercom, a voice that didn't belong to anyone on the premises. Then came the scratching from inside the walls, and the security footage of toys moving on their own. This job was supposed to be simple. Watch the cameras, patrol every 2 hours, and follow a strict set of rules. But no one told me what happened if you broke them. I'm writing this now while I still can, before the factory decides I know too much. I took the job because I was desperate. After 3 months of unemployment, 2 months behind on rent, and with my phone about to be disconnected, I said yes to the first offer that came along, even if it felt wrong from the start. Vintage Treasures Toy Company. The listing was vague. Night security. $22 per hour. No experience required. The ad looked like it was made in the early 2000s, blocky font and all, and yet it was posted just the day before. The factory stood like a fossil in the middle of a derelict industrial zone. Red brick walls cracked with age, faded white letters above the rusted entryway. The windows were stained yellow, and several were boarded up. There was a disturbing air about the place, like it hadn't breathed fresh air in decades. I was met at the front office by a man in a navy suit too clean for the setting. He introduced himself as Mr. Griggs, the site manager. His handshake was cold, dry, and lasted a beat too long. "You'll be working alone," he said with a tight smile. "But the job is easy. Monitor the cameras, patrol the halls, and follow the rules." He handed me a laminated sheet. 10 rules, typed neatly in bold. The night security rules. Vintage Treasures Toy Co. 1. Do not enter the production floor after midnight. 2. If you hear whistling, do not investigate. 3. Never respond to voices over the intercom unless they use your full name. 4. Always begin your patrol at exactly 1:13 a.m. 5. Ignore movement detected in camera 9 between 2 a.m. and 2:30 a.m. 6. If the toy clown is not in its display case during your patrol, do not search for it. 7. Keep the break room door locked at all times. 8. If the monitors go static, do not look away. 9. You may hear crying from the storage closet. Do not open it. 10. Clock out no later than 5:45 a.m. You're not joking? I asked, trying to sound casual. Mr. Griggs didn't flinch. I suggest you take them seriously, Mr. Parker. Many haven't. I laughed nervously and tucked the rule sheet into my pocket. I should have walked away. But that paycheck. The first hour passed quietly. The security office was tucked between the employee lounge and the manager's quarters. It had a desk, 3 chairs, a dusty vending machine, and a row of black and white monitors that buzzed with static. The factory was divided into zones: production, packaging, shipping, and the showroom, where the old toys were kept behind glass. Everything about the place screamed forgotten, outdated, dusty. But there was also something else, a weight to the air, like the building itself was watching. At 11:50 p.m., I walked the first patrol, flashlight in hand. The long corridors stretched like veins through the factory's bowels, and shadows curled in every corner. The toys in the showroom, hand-cranked monkeys, marionettes, porcelain dolls, and the infamous clown, seemed to watch me as I passed. Their eyes too lifelike, too aware. The clown doll was the worst. About 2 feet tall, with frizzy red hair, a painted grin too wide for its face, and small articulated hands resting against the glass. It hadn't been there when I walked by the first time, but on my way back, there it was. propped in the display case, its head tilted just so, as if listening. I told myself I must have missed it before. I had to. Back in the office, I settled in front of the monitors. Most showed grainy, empty hallways, except camera 9, a dark corridor outside the maintenance area, unlit, covered in plastic sheeting. Every few minutes, the motion detector lit up. Nothing moved, but the red motion light blinked like clockwork. I remembered rule number 5 and flipped the monitor off. At 12:03 a.m., the intercom crackled. Jason. My heart jerked in my chest. Static followed. Then again, clearer this time. Jason Parker, please respond. I stared at the mic full name. Rule number 3. I didn't respond. My hand hovered above the switch, but something inside me screamed not to. Instead, I leaned back, held my breath, and waited. Jason Parker. The voice repeated, quieter now. Help us. It's cold down here. A child's voice. Definitely a child's voice. I reached for the rule sheet again. Rule number 3. Never respond to voices over the intercom unless they use your full name. But they did. They did. I hesitated. I'm not falling for this. I muttered and flipped the intercom switch off. The building went dead silent. At 1:13 a.m. sharp, I began my patrol. I didn't want to follow that particular rule, but my hands moved on their own. Every step echoed against the cement floors. The air grew colder, the silence deeper. As I rounded the hallway near the showroom, something thudded lightly behind the glass. The clown was gone. I froze. Every muscle in my body tensed. The case was empty. Just a little white card inside. Mr. Chuckles, 1949 edition. Rule number 6 came crashing back into my head. If the toy clown is not in its display case during your patrol, do not search for it. I stepped back slowly, flashlight trembling in my grip. But something laughed. Not a man. Not a child. It was a toy's laugh, tinny, mechanical, but low and distorted like it had aged with time. I turned and walked fast, resisting the urge to run. I didn't want to look scared. I didn't want to be scared. But I was. Back in the office, the static on the monitors had intensified. All screens fuzzed and twitched. I remembered rule number 8. If the monitors go static, do not look away. I kept my eyes locked, even as my vision blurred and the images danced and warped. It felt like hours. Then, one screen flickered into focus. Camera 6. The break room. The door was open. Wide open. My heart slammed. Rule number 7 said to keep it locked at all times. I hadn't touched it since I arrived. I stood slowly, crossed the room, and pushed the door gently shut. It clicked softly, sealing whatever had opened it on the other side. Lock it, I whispered to myself. Just lock it and sit down. I did. But when I looked back at the monitors, one thing made my blood run cold. The clown was in the break room, sitting at the table, perfectly still. The rest of the night blurred into a sequence of tension and dread. At 2 a.m., I turned off camera 9 again, as instructed. But even with the monitor blacked out, I felt it. Movement, scraping, something brushing the hallways just beyond my view. At 2:17 a.m., the crying started, faint at first, coming from a storage closet near the supply hall. High-pitched sobs, pleading, soft knocks against the door. Let me out, please. I've been so good. Rule number 9 screamed in my brain. Do not open it. My hand hovered over my flashlight, then dropped. I locked the security room door instead. By 5 a.m., I was a wreck. Pale, sweaty, every nerve raw and frayed. At 5:44 a.m., I clocked out and left without looking back. The early morning sun looked almost off, as if reality was trying to stitch itself back together. Mr. Griggs was waiting by the main gate. His smile was warm. Too warm. "You made it," he said. "Offer me a cup of coffee. Most don't finish the first shift." I didn't take the coffee. "What's that place?" I asked. He shrugged. "Old places have memories, Mr. Parker. And toys." He paused. Voice dipped into something darker. "Toys remember who loved them, and who didn't." He turned, then added, "Be back tonight. Same time." I should have quit. Should have left town, maybe even the country. But I didn't, because I checked my phone before I drove off. There were new photos in my gallery, ones I never took. The last one was of me, sitting in the break room, Mr. Chuckles on my shoulder, smiling. I made it through my first night at the Vintage Treasures toy factory, barely. The rules seemed insane, until the clown vanished from its case. The intercom whispered my name in a child's voice, and I found unexplained photos of me, with something watching. I should have quit. I wanted to. But when I tried to walk away, I learned something far worse. This factory doesn't let you go. Not until it's done with you. And I fear it's only just begun. I didn't sleep that day. Not even for a second. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that clown, Mr. Chuckles, sitting beside me in the break room like we were old friends. I didn't remember him being there. I would have remembered that. But the picture on my phone didn't lie. And the timestamp? 5:41 a.m. For minutes before I clocked out. For minutes I couldn't remember. I called my friend Nate, the only person I trusted enough to talk to about it. "Dude, just don't go back," he said. "What's the worst they're gonna do? Fire you?" "That's what I thought too," I muttered. "But I think it's worse than that." I didn't tell him about the shadows, or the cold, or the voice that used my full name and begged for help. And I definitely didn't tell him about the crying from the closet, because if I did, it would make it all real, tangible, permanent. I stayed in my apartment until 9:30 p.m., pacing. Then I threw on my uniform, grabbed my flashlight, and left like a man heading to his own execution. The streets were empty, the air still and dead. When I arrived, the gate was already open. No one greeted me. No Mr. Griggs. No keys left out front. The lights were on inside the security office, even though I'd turned everything off before I left. And on the desk sat something new. A small plastic lunchbox. It was red with cartoon animals painted on the side. Old 1950s style, big eyes, exaggerated smiles. Inside was a single peanut butter and jelly sandwich, wrapped in wax paper. No note, no explanation. Just a lunchbox I'd never seen before sitting right where I would sit. I didn't touch it. Instead, I reread the rule sheet and did a quick walk through the cameras. Same layout, same corridors, same eerie emptiness. Until camera 9 flickered again, this time early. 10:38 p.m. Movement detected. I shut off. And for a second, just a blink, I thought I saw a pair of small, bare feet flash across the screen. The first patrol was supposed to be at 1:13 a.m., according to rule number 4. But at 11:57 p.m., the intercom crackled to life. No words this time, just static and a faint nursery rhyme being hummed at a girl's voice. "Hush, little baby, don't say a word." The humming went on for nearly a full minute before cutting out. I waited, palms slick with sweat, heart hammering. Then came the banging. Soft at first, thump, 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 like someone tapping a hollow wooden box. Then louder, heavier, thump, 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 from the storage closet. I stood up slowly, flashlight in hand. The knocking stopped. Then came a whisper Not from the intercom, but from directly outside the office. Jason. It was right outside the locked door. Jason Parker. I backed away from the desk. Come see us. I turned on every overhead light I could, trying to drown out the voice. The buzzing hum of fluorescence filled the room, but the whispering didn't stop until I picked up the lunchbox. The moment I touched it, the air shifted. The cold in the room vanished. The whispering stopped, almost like that's what it wanted. I dropped the box instantly, and the lights flickered. Every monitor blinked, except one. Camera 3. The showroom. It was lit by a single overhead bulb. All the toys inside their glass cases, except for one. Mr. Chuckles. Gone again. But this time, the case wasn't empty. Something else was inside now. A child's drawing. Crude crayon lines scrawled across yellow paper. A stick figure man with a flashlight. Another figure. A clown, smiling, holding the man's hand. Above them, in shaky red letters, "You're our favorite." At 1:13 a.m., I began the patrol. I had no choice. My feet moved on their own. The hallway past the break room was colder than the rest. My breath fogged in front of me. From the shadows, I heard giggling. Not one child. Multiple. They echoed from everywhere. Vents. Corners. Ceiling tiles. As I passed the showroom, I stopped. The clown was standing outside the case now, directly in the center of the room, facing the glass, like he was watching me. I turned my flashlight off. I don't know why. I just didn't want him to see the beam. And that's when I noticed it. His hands had moved. One was holding something small and red, a crayon. Back in the office, the peanut butter sandwich was unwrapped, half-eaten. No one else was there. I locked the door and sat down, hands trembling, eyes fixed on the monitors. Then, camera 7 lit up. Packaging room. Something crawled across the floor. It wasn't a person. Not entirely. It moved on all fours, like it had forgotten how to walk. Its arms were long, unnaturally long, and its skin sagged like a rag doll's. Its head bobbed side to side like it was stitched too loosely to the body. I reached for the intercom mic, forgetting rule number 3, and froze when it turned its head toward the camera. Its face was made of fabric, button eyes, painted-on smile. A doll, but it moved like something alive. It grinned at the camera and disappeared behind the conveyor belts. Then all the monitors went static again. I stared, unblinking, but this time the static talked. Low whispers behind the hiss of white noise. Hundreds of them. Stay with us. We made you a friend. Play forever. My chest tightened. I blinked once. All monitors returned to normal. And on the break room camera, the clown was sitting at the table again. This time, he was facing the camera, and next to him sat a figure I didn't recognize. Another doll. Long hair. No face. Just a patch of stitched fabric where eyes and mouth should be. Her head turned slowly, tilting toward Mr. Chuckles like they were sharing a secret. Then the camera shorted out. At 3:02 a.m., something slammed against the supply closet door. I heard it this time. Not crying, not whispering, screaming. A child begging, pounding fists. Let me out. Please. He's coming. Rule number 9, don't open it. But I was losing my grip on what was real and what wasn't. The screaming intensified. Desperate. Terrified. Then, the pounding stopped, and the voice changed. Jason, it said soft and low. Jason Parker. The same voice from the intercom. I'm behind you. I spun, flashlight raised. Nothing. But when I turned back to the monitors, the supply closet door was now wide open. I rushed down the hall, against every instinct, and found the closet exactly as it had been before. Shut, locked, silent. Except something was written on it now. Words scrawled in chalk, uneven and frantic. You broke the rule. I backed away, stomach twisting, and ran back to the office. The moment I stepped in, the clown was there, sitting in my chair, grinning. He held the crayon in one hand, and on the wall behind him, written in red, only 4 more nights. I stood frozen. Then, slowly, Mr. Chuckles climbed off the chair, moved like his limbs weren't even connected to tendons. Twitchy, awkward, terrifying. He waddled out of the room, just walked out, like he had somewhere else to be. And I didn't stop him. At 5:45 a.m., I clocked out exactly on time. The moment I stepped outside, the sun was rising again, and the air felt normal. Clean. But as I turned to lock the front doors, something caught my eye. A new poster had been taped to the glass. Employee of the Month, Jason Parker. Below it, a photo. Me, smiling blankly, eyes vacant. Mr. Chuckles perched on my shoulder, and someone else behind me in the shadows. A tall shape, unclear, but its stitched grin was unmistakable. I should have left after the second night. The clown, Mr. Chuckles, was moving freely through the factory. The monitors showed stitched abominations crawling through the shadows. The rules, insane at first, are the only thing keeping me alive. But I made a mistake. I broke one, and now something knows. It wrote on the walls. It stared through the cameras. It whispered my name with intent. The factory isn't just haunted, it's waiting. And it wants a play. I didn't go home after my second shift. I drove for hours instead. No destination, just the need to move, to keep space between me and that cursed building. But no matter how far I went, the feeling followed. A weight, a pressure, like someone had dropped a cold, wet blanket over my shoulders and whispered, "It's not over." I parked at a rest stop just past the county line and tried to sleep in the back seat. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the plastic clatter of tiny shoes following me. When I finally unlocked my phone, a new message waited in my inbox. No sender, just 3 words. Smile for us. Attached was a blurry photo. Me, in the break room, fast asleep, my hand resting on Mr. Chuckles' red felt hat. I never touched him. I don't even remember sitting in that chair. I deleted the image, but my hand was shaking too hard to drive. By 6 p.m., I gave up and headed back into town. At 9:55 p.m., I pulled into the lot and stared at the building from the safety of my car. The lights were already on inside. The gate was open. Again, the factory looked older tonight. That probably sounds crazy, but it did. The bricks seemed more worn. The sign, more faded. Like each night added years to its skeleton. And above the main entrance, someone, or something, had hung a banner. It wasn't there before. "Welcome back, Jason." The letters were painted in dripping red. Not blood. Paint, I think. Below it, hanging like party streamers, were strings of frayed yarn dolls. Each one hand-stitched. Each one smiling. And every single one had my face. The security office was colder than usual. I didn't sit. I didn't touch anything. I scanned the monitors. The factory was quiet, except camera 5, the showroom. Inside the glass display case where Mr. Chuckles used to sit was now a different toy entirely. A large, headless teddy bear, buttons stitched across its chest like a mouth. A note was taped to the inside of the glass. I couldn't read it from the feed, but I didn't need to, because on the monitor, it was written backward. "We made this one from your dreams." I swallowed hard and flipped the monitor off. At 11:43 p.m., the intercom came to life. No whispering this time. No humming. Just a single sound. Camera shutter click. Over and over. Click. 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 Then silence. And from outside the security room, footsteps. Small. Bare. Like a child. Walking slowly down the hall. I turned off all the lights and pressed myself into the corner. I held my breath as the footsteps stopped just outside the door. Then something slid under it. A photograph. I picked it up with trembling fingers. It showed me, standing in the hallway, staring directly into the camera, smiling wide. But I never stood there. Not tonight. Not ever. And worst of all, my reflection in the glass behind me wasn't smiling. It was screaming. At 1:13 a.m., I walked the patrol. I had to. The rules demanded it. The hallway past the supply room was darker than usual. My flashlight flickered, even with new batteries. Every surface felt soaked, like moisture was leaking from the walls. The crying began again, from the closet. But this time it was different. Lower. Slower. Not a child. A man. Jason. Jason, you there? Please, I need help. I stopped dead. The voice, it was my own. Perfectly mirrored. Don't leave me in here, it said. You have to open the door this time. You broke the rules, remember. I clenched my jaw and backed away. The door handle rattled violently. Then, it screamed. My scream. Like someone had torn the sound directly from my own mouth. And it didn't stop. It chased me through the hallway, echoing off every wall, bouncing like a siren made of pain and terror. By the time I got back to the security room, my ears were ringing, my head pounding. The lunchbox was back, same as before, but now it was open, and something moved inside. I flipped it over onto the desk. A tiny jack-in-the-box rolled out, crank already halfway turned. I stared at it. It twitched. Click. I didn't touch it. I just waited. One slow crank at a time. It wound itself. Click, click, click. Then it stopped. The lid popped. But instead of a clown or a puppet, a small wax figure flopped forward. It was me. My uniform, my haircut, my name tag, perfectly detailed. Its tiny glass eyes blinked. I slammed the box shut and threw in the trash. That was when the monitors died. All of them. Black screens. No static this time. Just nothing. Then one came back on. Camera 9. Even though I had turned it off. The feed showed the old maintenance corridor. But now it looked different. More decayed. The plastic sheeting was gone. The floors rotted. The walls pulsing. And something crawled out of the dark. It wasn't a toy. It wasn't human either. It was long and thin, like a centipede, but stitched together from hundreds of mismatched doll parts. Porcelain, fabric, plastic, wood. It dragged itself slowly, limbs clicking with each movement. And, at the front of it, Mr. Chuckle's head, grinning, spinning side to side. Smile, Jason. A voice gurgled through the speaker. Then the screen turned red. Every monitor followed suit. A blinding wall of red light, and one word flashing over and over. Play. I don't remember what happened next. I woke up on the floor, face down in the break room. Everything smelled like sugar and mold. I sat up slowly, vision blurry, and screamed. My hand was covered in wax. So was my arm, my chest, my face, like someone had been coating me, layer by layer, while I slept. And in the corner, the jack-in-the-box was open again, empty. I ran for the exit. No rules now. No cameras. No logic. I just ran. Every hallway stretched longer than it should. Every corner twisted on itself. The factory had become a maze, like it was alive, and I was its mouse. Toys watched from behind glass. Dolls turned their heads as I passed. Wooden horses creaked. A wind-up ballerina spun in place, bleeding from the eyes. Finally, I reached the front lobby. The door was wide open. I bolted into the parking lot and stopped because my car was gone. Not stolen. Gone. Like it had never existed. In its place sat a plastic tricycle, bright red. Its streamers fluttered in the wind, and, hanging from the handlebars, my car keys. I backed away, heart hammering, and slammed into someone behind me. Mr. Griggs. But he looked wrong. Paler. Older. His eyes glassy. Like he hadn't slept in decades. "You missed your break," he said, voice hollow. I tried to speak. Nothing came out. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You're doing very well, Jason. The children like you." I turned to run. He grabbed my shoulder. His grip was cold. "They've never made a new friend this fast. You should be honored." His hand pressed a piece of paper into mine. Then he was gone. I looked down. A new rule sheet. Only 2 lines. Vintage Treasures Addendum. Effective immediately. Jason Parker only. 11. Do not attempt to leave without permission. 12. Begin smiling at all times. I dropped the paper and ran until the sky turned pink with dawn. Somehow, I reached the edge of town. A bus stop. A real one. The road stretched beyond the factory's reach. Maybe. I climbed into the shelter and collapsed onto the bench. And there, on the bench beside me, was the Jack-in-the-Box. Waiting. They said I couldn't leave. They were right. The moment I ran, the factory followed. Into my photos, my dreams, and now my world. The dolls don't stay behind glass anymore. The rules have changed. New ones made just for me. A stitched centipede of broken toys slithers through the factory. A Jack-in-the-Box with my wax replica moves on its own. And tonight, I go back, because they're no longer asking. They're commanding. And if I don't follow the rules, I become one of them. I never made it onto the bus. The driver pulled up just after 6 a.m., looking half asleep. But the moment he saw me, he locked the doors and shook his head. "Sorry, not today," he said. "Please," I begged. "Just take me anywhere but here." He stared at me through the glass. "You've got factory eyes, son," he muttered. "It's already inside you." And then he drove off. I stood there as the Jack-in-the-Box began slowly cranking itself open again, sitting on the bench right where I'd left it. Click, click, click. I didn't wait for the pop. I kicked it down the gutter and ran. When I got back to my apartment, the door was already open. Not broken into, just open. Inside, everything was rearranged. My couch flipped. The fridge, unplugged. All my cabinets, open and empty. And my bedroom, covered in photographs. Dozens, maybe hundreds. All of me, all taken inside the factory. In the break room, by the display cases. Even in the supply closet, where I never dared step inside. Some of the photos were old, sepia-toned, corners curled, like they'd been taken decades ago. But my face was there. My name tag, clearly visible. In one, I was shaking hands with Mr. Griggs in front of the showroom. Behind us, a sign read, "Welcome our new friend, 1956. That couldn't be right. I wasn't even born then. There was a knock at the door. When I didn't answer, it knocked again. And then the mail slot creaked open, and something slid through. A wax figure. Of me. But this time its eyes were missing, and its mouth was sewn shut. I screamed and crushed it beneath my boot, but it didn't break. It only twitched. I don't remember deciding to return. I just remember being back inside the factory by 9:52 p.m., like I'd been pulled there, like a puppet on invisible strings. The gate stood wide. The banner now read, "Only 2 nights left, Jason." The dolls strung across the front entrance had been replaced. Newer, fleshier, and I swear, I recognized their faces. One looked like my old boss from the gas station. Another resembled Nate. I hadn't heard from him in 2 days. The air smelled like cinnamon and embalming fluid. Inside the office, the monitors were already on. Camera 2, loading bay. Something big was standing just outside the doors. Not a person, not a toy, not any one thing at all. It was stitched together. A Frankenstein of mannequins and mascot suits. Foam padding sagged where flesh should be. Limbs were in the wrong places. Its head was a carousel horse, and it was banging its head against the steel shutters, rhythmically. Bang, bang, bang. Then it stopped, turned slowly, and looked directly into the camera. I turned it off. Tonight, the rules were different. Instead of the laminated list, I found a wooden sign nailed to the office wall. It had been carved by hand, burned letters etched into rotted pine. Tonight's tasks: 1. Win the ballerina. 2. Feed the giggling drawer. 3. Let Mr. Chuckles choose your patrol route. 4. Applaud when the puppets perform. 5. If your smile fades, start over. There were no instructions, no times, no logic, just those 5 ominous tasks. And as I stared, the door to the office creaked open by itself. On the floor outside, a trail of red buttons formed a line, leading toward the old dance studio that had been sealed off since I started. Win the ballerina. I followed. The dance studio was coated in a thin layer of soot, like someone had burned time itself inside. At the center stood a cracked music box and a life-sized ballerina doll. Her body was wood, but her eyes were glass. Huge, human, desperate. Her key was in her back, unwound. I didn't want to touch her, but I had to. I reached forward, hard in my throat, and twisted the key 3 times. Click, click, click. Her arms jerked up. She began to spin, slowly, awkwardly, off balance. And as she turned, her head tilted until her eyes locked onto mine. She didn't blink, just spun and stared. A whisper followed. Don't stop watching her, or she'll stop dancing. I backed away slowly, keeping eye contact. When I crossed the threshold of the room, the music stopped, and from inside, something thudded to the floor. I didn't look back. The next task: feed the giggling drawer. I found it in the old crafts room, one of the file cabinets. Drawer number 3. It was shaking violently, laughing, cackling. I'm hungry, Jason. It squealed in a voice like shredded tape. I rummaged through the room for anything and finally found a half-broken plush rabbit. I tossed it in. The drawer snapped shut, grinding and chewing like metal teeth. Then it burped, and something dropped to the floor beneath it. A photograph of me, but my eyes were stitched shut, and my mouth had been replaced with a zipper. Third task: let Mr. Chuckles choose your patrol route. I found him waiting by the break room, holding a paper map of the factory. He offered it up with both hands like a gift. I took it. The route was marked in red crayon, through the oldest wings of the building, the ones no cameras reached, places I'd never been, places that didn't feel built, more like grown. I followed the map, past rusted conveyor belts, past cobweb-thick corners where ancient toys sat half-finished and discarded, past the wall of faces, dozens of heads molded in wax and foam and plastic, nailed to a wall, their mouths open in silent screams. Eventually, I reached the puppet theater, a room I hadn't known existed. A miniature stage sat at the far end, velvet curtains drawn. I remember task number 4. Applaud when the puppets perform. I sat in the only chair, and the lights dimmed. No one turned them off. They just dimmed. The curtains rose, and the show began. 2 marionettes shuffled out. One looked like me, the other, Mr. Chuckles. Strings danced above them, controlled by invisible hands. The puppets reenacted my first night, line for line, step for step. Only this time, the puppet version of me smiled constantly, even when terrified, even when crying. The puppet clown handed me a fake rule sheet, and Puppet Jason clapped like a trained monkey. Then, without warning, Puppet Chuckles stabbed Puppet Jason with a candy cane. Blood sprayed the cardboard set. The audience, empty seats, erupted in ghostly applause. I remember the rule. I forced myself to clap, and the lights went out. I woke up on the stage. Real blood pooled around me. Mine? I couldn't tell. I staggered off into the dark, back to the office, where the final rule waited. If your smile fades, start over. The mirror on the desk had changed. Now it reflected not just my face, but a clown face beneath it. Painted features, cracked skin, something breaking through. I touched my cheek. It felt rubbery, and for the first time I realized my lips were smiling, but I wasn't. I tried to scrub the paint off in the bathroom. Nothing worked. Not water, not bleach, not even my own fingernails clawing at my skin. My mouth would not stop smiling, even as tears ran down my face, even as I screamed soundlessly into the mirror. And that's when the monitor behind me flickered on, a live feed of the storage closet. Inside was me, the real me, tied to a chair, face blank, unpainted, terrified. The camera zoomed in slowly, and my real self looked up, looked straight into the lens, and begged, "Please help me." The intercom crackled. Mr. Griggs' voice. 5 a.m., Jason. Almost time. I backed away from the monitor, from the mirror, from myself. Because I understood now. The Jason walking the halls, that was the replacement. I was still trapped, and my time was running out. At 5:44 a.m., the power went out. Not just in the office. Everywhere. Total blackness. Only one light remained. Camera, SciXS night vision. The break room. The wax figure of me sat there, motionless, until it turned its head, its smile wider than ever, its eyes glassy, and behind it, in the shadows, I saw them. The others. Dozens of figures. Former guards. Visitors. Employees. All half doll. Half human. All smiling. All waiting. The rules kept me alive. Until they didn't. Now I know the truth. There is no leaving Vintage Treasures Toy Factory. Not really. The factory doesn't just haunt. It replaces. It molds. It absorbs. Every mistake, every broken rule, brings you one step closer to becoming the next toy on the shelf. I've seen my own face stitched into wax. I've heard my own voice cry from locked closets. Tonight is the 5th and final night. I can feel the grin stretching under my skin, but I won't go quietly. I didn't drive to the factory that night. I woke up there. No memory of getting dressed. No memory of leaving my apartment. I simply opened my eyes and was lying on the cold tile floor of the break room, still smiling, still painted, and all around me were toys, not the kind you find in stores. These were ancient, handmade, grotesque. One was a bear sewn from leather gloves. Another, a marionette with real human teeth. A wind-up soldier missing its eyes, steam hissing from its back. They stood in a perfect circle around me, watching, waiting. In the center of the table, a cake. 5 candles, all lit, all waxy. "Happy final night, Jason," said the sign strung overhead. My hands moved on their own. I clapped, and the toys clapped with me. I stumbled out of the break room and into a factory I barely recognized. The walls pulsed like muscle. The floor creaked with every step, as if it breathed, and the overhead lights were gone, replaced with strings of flickering bulbs like a carnival. The security monitors had all been smashed. In their place, a single television played grainy footage on loop. It showed me, not the version walking, but the one trapped, bound to a chair in the supply closet, face pale, mouth sewn, tears soaking my shirt. It wasn't a live feed anymore. It was a recording, because I was no longer on the outside. I was watching the performance now, and someone else had taken the stage. At exactly 1:13 a.m., the factory spoke, not in words, in movement. The walls groaned, the machines rumbled, and from the shadows emerged the dolls, hundreds of them, marching through the hallways in sync, and leading them, Mr. Chuckles, but not the small version anymore. He had grown, now 7 feet tall, arms jointed like a spider's, jester hat rotted and draped over one shoulder. His eyes were glassy black, orbs that reflected me. "Time for the final game, Jason," he whispered in a voice like rusted hinges. "One more rule." He handed me a scroll, blood-soaked paper, ink smeared, just a single line. "Escape before the factory finishes your smile." I turned and ran. The halls twisted as I moved, walls rearranging, ceilings lowering. Everything was wrong. This place didn't follow geometry anymore. It was a body, a nightmare in motion. Voices chased me through the corridors. Not screams, laughter, childlike, constant. The puppets clapped as I passed. Wind-up teeth snapped in the corners. Porcelain dolls whispered secrets in voices I recognized. My mother, my childhood teacher, my own voice from 3 nights ago. "You broke the rules. You let us in." You smiled. I kept running, dodging swinging limbs, ducking beneath dangling marionettes, tripping over old toys that reached for my ankles. The exit was just ahead, the lobby, but the doors were gone. In their place, a mirror, full length, and what stared back wasn't me. It wore my uniform. It had my name tag, but its eyes were empty voids. Its smile was carved from ear to ear. Blood dripped from its mouth like melted wax. It stepped forward, and so did I. I hadn't moved, but it did, perfectly synced, like it was the real me. I punched the mirror. Glass shattered, but the thing inside didn't break. It stepped through. We wrestled in the dark. No noise, just breath and pain and wax under fingernails. It laughed as it pinned me. "Jason Parker," it whispered, "you were always meant for this." And then it opened its mouth, wider than a human could, revealing gears, strings, rows of puppet jaws spinning inside like clockwork. It leaned down a bite, but something stopped it. Click! The jack in the box, the one I thought I lost. It sat on the floor, winding by itself. Click, 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 and then, pop. The clown didn't emerge. Instead, a bright flash erupted from the box, and the factory screamed. Walls shook, lights burst, toy shells crashed to the floor, and the mirror me shrieked, melting into black wax, its face warping, stretching, until it collapsed into a heap of fabric and buttons. I crawled away, bloodied and dazed, and saw the real door now open. I ran, out into the cold night, into the city, and didn't stop until I reached the next town. I passed out in a diner booth, covered in dirt and wax. They called an ambulance. When I woke up, I was in a hospital, strapped down. They said I had been missing for 8 days. They showed me photos I didn't remember taking, of me smiling beside strangers, in malls, on playgrounds, all with that painted grin, the clown smile. They thought I had a breakdown. They gave me pills, but none of that matters, because tonight I turned on the TV in the hospital room, and a commercial played, old-timey music, children laughing, a banner on the screen, Vintage Treasures Toy Factory, now hiring new friends. And on the screen, my face, smiling, waving, mouth stretched just a little too wide. I moved to another state. I changed my name. I stopped sleeping. But sometimes I hear the music box at night. Sometimes I wake up with wax on my hands. Sometimes I smile in the mirror, and it doesn't fade. And yesterday, a package arrived at my new apartment. No return address. Just a note. Congratulations. You're Employee of the Month, forever. Inside the box, a clown nose, my name tag, and a brand new rule sheet. 10 rules, all blank, except one, written in red crayon. Smile, Jason. You're part of the collection now. Thank you for listening. And if you ever find yourself working night shift, read the rules. Follow them, or someone will follow you.